In today's video, I'm going to show you how to completely remove your guide bushing from your Swiss lathe and convert it over to a normal chucking style lathe. We're also going to go over some of the advantages and disadvantages of both these things. Just want to give a big shout out to Dynamic Machine of Detroit for making these videos happen. It is much appreciated. So, if you are here for the psychopathically detailed description on how to remove your guide bushing from your machine, then skip to right here. If you are wondering, what is a guide bushing, what is non-guide bushing mode, and why should I care? Well, that's what the first part of this video is about. So, normally on a Swiss machine, we run our material through what's called a guide bushing. And that looks like this. It is literally a bushing that guides the material so we can feed it out like that. Now, this has several advantages. Number one would be the length to diameter ratio that you can make on your machine is pretty much as long as you could think of. It's pretty cool. The second advantage would definitely be rigidity, which I would say leads into the third advantage, which is tool life. If you're running parts on a conventional lathe and you put them on a Swiss, you'll notice it runs a lot longer, a lot better. But there is an issue with guide bushing mode, and it's in my hand right here. See, this is an aluminum bar, and it's just slightly oversized. And that is enough to make it so the guide bushing is stuck. So what happens then when I put this material and my guide bushing in my machine and tighten this down? Even if I tighten it down slightly, it still will probably be enough to make the bar stick. And if the bar sticks, a lot of bad things are gonna happen. Even if your machine catches this, you're still gonna have to fix a jammed guide bushing. So if your part is like this part right here and fits within the 80mm stroke of this machine, then we can take our entire guide bushing out and convert our Swiss lathe into, well, pretty much a normal chucking lathe. This will get rid of all the material problems that you were having with your guide bushing. Another advantage of non-guide bushing mode would be roundness. Now, because we don't have to rely on the quality of our material to make our part, roundness is no longer a problem. Your part will be, well, just as good as a normal lathe. It'll be perfectly round. Now, the last advantage I would talk about with non-guide bushing mode would be your remnant length. See, with non-guide bushing mode, it's not uncommon to have like an 8-inch remnant. So yeah, that's nice. You're wasting less material. And that's it. That's pretty much the rundown of why you need to switch this over. So now let's go switch our machine over to non-guide bushing mode. And let's change our shirt for no reason. Look at that. It's a beautiful thing. So let's hop into our main spindle area and let's take out our guide bushing. So we are here in the main spindle area of our machine. Now, what do we have to do in here? We're gonna have to get this cap off, this cover off, we're gonna have to loosen some belts, and then put on another cap, and then we can bring everything forward. So let's get into it. First things first, this cap right here. We're gonna use a 3mm Allen wrench. We're gonna take these two screws out. Now next, this cover right here, mine has 2 screws in the front right here and 2 screws on the back right here. All right, now we can take that cover off. So now that we have that cover off, you can kind of see how this machine works, right? And this is always cool to me. Once you get a machine apart, you can see inside of it, start to see how it works. But this is what we have to get off next. Now to do that, we have to get this cover off the main spindle. You will need a 4mm Allen wrench for this. Okay. Now, once all 3 screws are out, you could take this cap off as well. And again, it is super full of grease, so just be aware of that. I don't wipe that away, I leave that. Honestly, why not? We're gonna hop over there and start working on the back side of the machine so we can start taking apart some of this stuff right here. So yeah, look at that. Now we're on this side of the machine. Editing is magical. So first thing we're gonna do is take off these 3 screws right here. And then we have to take off the 2 screws behind that plate that are holding this plate in position. So these 3 come off first, and then we'll go back here and we'll take these 2 out. So you will need a 6mm Allen wrench for this. Okay, now that those 3 bolts are out, let's get these 2 bolts back here out now. Do a little in-action movement here. So do you see these 2 screws? The upper ones, not the lower ones. The upper ones have to be removed right here. So we will now grab a 4mm Allen wrench. We will take these 2 screws out. Okay. All right, so now we should be able to, yes, we can lift this piece right here, but our belt is still tight, so we can't really move this anywhere, right? It's kind of stuck in place. So now we actually have to loosen the casting that's holding our sink rod down in place. So this next part, you're not going to really be able to see anything from that angle, so I put a GoPro right here. So when I cut to this clip, that is literally what I am seeing from where I'm standing. Now, before we crack any more screws loose, there's something you really need to know about that you can screw up right here, and honestly, it's not good. So this plate right here that I am sliding my finger across, this is the alignment plate for our sink rod casting. So what you never, ever want to do is break loose this screw right here and this screw right here. Make sure I can see that on the GoPro. So yes, do not break loose this screw right here or this screw right here. Do not break those loose. So let's break the proper screws loose. So the first ones up are going to be these 8mm screws right here. So with an Allen wrench, can crack that guy loose, and I can crack that guy loose. Okay, so now it's loose, but we haven't given ourselves any room for movement yet. So these 2 little screws right here are actually the jack screws. Those are what we're going to use to pull the casting back when we tighten it down. So I will crack those loose as well. So now we have this screw loose, this screw loose, this screw loose, and that screw loose. Plus maybe some screws loose in our head, but hey, let's just not open that can of worms. So now what I can do is I can actually put my hand on the sink rod and I can move it around. So if I pull this guy back right here, now I can move the sink rod around. So now if I lift this guy up right here, you can see I can move my casting forward and my belts are now loose. So now the belt can actually come off the main spindle. No problem. Now this belt doesn't come out. This belt actually loops around this little bit of the casting right here. But I think we need to change the camera angle at this point. So yes. So yeah. We have a belt that you haven't been able to see yet, and that is up in our guide bushing area. It's going from our guide bushing to the end of the sink rod right here. We need to get that belt out first before we bring this whole thing forward and get this belt out. All right, so we are here at the front of the machine. Now, one thing we have to note here is that you have this air line in here that puts back pressure in your bearings of your guide bushing. We need to disconnect this and plug it into this little guy right here. So that is the first thing I will do. These are always a pain. Okay, so that guy right there goes right down there like that. So now let's get these 2 screws out and get this cap off. Okay, so put that part up here. Let's bring that guy in here. So now you can see the belt right here that if I spin the sink rod, that is what sinks your guide bushing to your main spindle. So this belt needs to come out. So the manual is going to tell you to go into the machining area of the machine and take a cover off next to the guide bushing to get this belt out. The truth is you can honestly get this belt out no problem. I've never had to show anyone to take that cover off to get this out. So if you bring this guy right here forward and you pull this little belt out like this, so right here, the belt also can come off. So I can get that around the end of the sink rod, and I can just pull it through right here, no problem. So that's how I take the belt out, but there is a way in the manual that shows you to go the other way. I honestly, not really a fan of doing all that extra work. It's incredibly easy to get it out through the back. now we need to get this belt off, and we need to bring this up and attach it to this bracket right here. But before we do that, it's important to kind of show you this bracket is adjustable. We're actually going to use it, we're going to pull this up to make sure it holds that belt in place. So one thing you might want to do is you might want to crack this bracket loose so it can move around and it can meet up with these 3 holes right here, meet up with the 3 holes on this bracket. So now that we have the bracket loose, let's slide it up. First thing I'll do is I'll put my belt over this little part of the bracket here. So important to note, this goes around the back. So we have that guy back there. We'll use the same 3 screws that you used to take this out to put it back in and connect it to this bracket. So now that we have that kind of tight, I'm going to pull the whole casting of the sink rod back. And I'm going to just tighten these screws. So I just figure I'll show you with the GoPro real quick. Ow, just stabbed myself with a zip tie. All right. So what I just did right there is I just tightened this screw and this screw right here by hand. That way there's no gap right now, so I know my sink rod is all the way back. At that point, I will also snug down these 8mm bolts. Okay, so we're back over here. So now this belt is a little loose, but what's nice is if we tighten this guy down, what's nice is we can use this little bracket right here to pull up. So I can actually pull my belt up and snug it down. And that really isn't going to go anywhere. Now, the final thing I'd recommend you do here, after making sure everything's nice and snug, is the 2 screws that came off the back of this plate that we took off over here. I wouldn't just leave them floating about. I would actually put them back in this block. We will put these 2 screws back in right here. Okay. So now the main spindle area, I would say, is done with the machine. We now have to get the actual guide bushing out. So this guy right here needs to come out. Okay, so we are now in the machining area of the machine, and we now have to get this guide bushing out. So the first thing we're gonna have to do with this guy is get these 4 screws out. So let's do that. All right, we will put our 4 screws away so we don't drop them into a bunch of chips. What we need to do is get jack screws. So we're going to use these threaded holes in the casting of our guide bushing here to jack the guide bushing out of the casting that's holding it. Now, the best set screws for this are actually off another Citizen product. So let's go over to that Citizen product, steal their screws, and then come back and get this out. So Citizen will hate me for saying this, but the best screws to get this guide bushing out are actually right here in the back of the A20. On the back of the casting right here. They weren't using them, so I'm going to steal them. But you'll notice these are very long set screws. So if you don't have a machine like that to steal these from, then you definitely want to get a set screw like this that's roughly, I don't know, more than an inch long. So what we'll do is we will put these in the face of our guide bushing here. So we got all 3 in like that. All right, so we just put our 3 screws that are going to jack our guide bushing out into our guide bushing. Now, it's very important here that when you bring this out, you do it in a very delicate manner. Don't reef down on any of these screws. If it's really hard to turn the screw, stop, back out, and find the screw that you need to actually put torque on to bring this out evenly. It's very important you bring this out evenly. It's a nice, expensive precision object, so treat it as such. All right, let's take it out. So, a little bit of torque right there. A little bit of torque right there. All right, that's got to be it. So let's, yep. Oh, and look at that. We're gonna have to take this coolant hose out. I did not realize that's in the way. It's probably in the manual though. Okay, not a big deal. We will get that out of the way. Now we could probably get this guide bushing out. Oh no. Okay, very careful. So that right there, that is your guide bushing. That is awesome. Oh, it's always cool when you can actually take stuff out and see how it works. So yeah, now that our guide bushing is out, we now need to finish the job and get the cap on our... Okay, so now that our guide bushing is out and in our hands, let's get the main spindle through that giant hole we just put in our machine. And we are back at the main spindle area here. So what I have right here is our non-guide bushing cap. Now there is a hole in this that you can see right here. That is for oil to fall out of the non-guide bushing cap. So you want that facing down because that's which way the earth is and that's which way gravity will pull oil. So yes, make sure that's facing down. But before you put this on, let's take a rag and let's wipe off the face of our main collet here. Make sure it's nice and clean, just like your mother told you to be with your bedroom. So there is the hole on the bottom, and then there's two alignment pins, so you really can't screw this up. So just like that. Okay, we will put these two screws in and hold the cap in place. Now, just as a double check, I doubt anything will ever happen where this could go wrong, but I will spin my main spindle to make sure I don't feel any drag. You know, there might be something wrong with the cap, someone might have dropped it and not told you. It's always good to spin your spindle and make sure you don't feel any drag, that these two things are not touching, because if they were, that would be awful. All right, so now we have to change a setting in our machine so we can jog this all the way forward, because right now, the machine at this point has no idea we've done any of this. So if I were to jog this forward, it wouldn't be able to go all the way through because it still thinks there's a guide bushing there. So now we need to go into our control, change some settings, then we can jog this thing forward, and that's it. We will be in non-guide bushing mode. So yeah, let's do that. So one thing before we change anything I want to show you is that if you go into manual and you look at your Z1 axis, its operation range is only 39 thousandths to 12.8 inches. So that's the normal operational range of your Z-axis. We need to change that. We need to go an extra 4 inches further into our guide bushing. So to change that, we're gonna go over to parameter, and we're gonna go to MC structure. All right, now we're gonna arrow key over and we're gonna hit set. This will allow us to change these options. And we will go down to this one right here. GBL stands for guide bushing less. I call it non-guide bushing mode. I think a lot of people do. I don't know a lot of people who call it guide bushing less, but I don't name these things, all right? Anyways, we'll select it, input. Now, you'll see it says program not selected. It's gonna prompt us right here with a warning, Z1 stroke change, check interference of our loader. It's just kind of saying, hey, you know, pay attention to what you're doing. But also you'll notice up here, it deselected our program. It's kind of nice that it does this, but if your it's kind of nice that it does this, but if your program doesn't have guide bushing mode or non-guide bushing mode selected, it will automatically deselect it for you because your program needs to match your MC structure. It's very important. That way you can't accidentally put a program in and have the machine go flying into the back of the guide bushing. Pretty important it does that. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go into edit and I'm gonna go to the program that I had up, which is 693 named Super. I don't know why I named it Super, but yeah. We're gonna go over to our MC data and we're gonna arrow key up to this guy right here. So right here, guide bush type. Right now I have guide bushing. I want guide bushing less, so I'm gonna hit 2, input. So that will change my MC data and allow the machine to pull up that program. Program select. I'll go back down to Super and hit input. And now it will allow that program to be active in the background. So Now, when we go to manual, you will notice our operational range has changed. Now we have 16.9 inches of travel. So here's the part where I really want you to pay attention, because you can screw something up. The first time you jog your spindle forward into your machining area, do it with caution. Just in case, for any reason, if you left a cable or anything that can get snagged, just do this next part carefully. So manual, we're in Z, do 10 thou per click. So at this point, when I turn the hand wheel, I can start jogging this forward. So now what I'm looking for is, in case any line I had over here is, you know, not in the right spot, it might get snagged. Nope, I don't see anything. Paying attention. Make sure there's nothing in the way. All right. So at this point, we can go to the other side and actually watch the guide bushing come through. And that is what that looks like. Wow. Tremendous. Amazing. You are now in non-guide bushing mode. You have taken your Swiss knowledge and, oh, actually not yet. Hold on. So with our 4mm Allen wrench, we will put this guy back in. That's cool. You don't have to lose your coolant line. All right, there you go. You are now in non-guide bushing mode. Well, congratulations, you made it to the end of my second video. I do appreciate it. Now, the reward you get is you get to decide what the next video is going to be about. So over here on the DN links, we actually have programmed 2 different macros for you. So we have a macro that uses y-axis milling to do this hex right here, and we have a macro that does G12.1 milling to do this hexagon right here. So if you're one of the few that made it to the end of this video, comment down below which one would you like to see next, because yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I'm gonna do both at the same time, so I'll post whichever one you want first. Totally up to you. Yeah, this video was a lot of work. I actually filmed it 3 times. I hated the first version, so I refilmed it, and then I refilmed the whole thing out of focus the second time, because yeah, I'm new to this, so I'm learning. And yeah, so it's important to me that I don't make crappy videos for you guys. I really want them to be comprehensive. I want you to be able to understand what I'm talking about. I want to show you everything in detail. So yeah, I hope you know that I am going out of my way to make sure that these videos are of a certain quality. Yeah, I guess that's it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video.